Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and you're listening to Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. This 30-minute podcast features a new author interviewed by me every single day, 365 days a year, for about 30 minutes. I am also the publisher for Zibby Books, which publishes 12 books a year in fiction and memoir. Our books are already out now. You can check it out on zibbybooks.com. And we have a magazine called Zibby Mag, where we have lots of wonderful essays and lifestyle features. That's at zibbymag.com. We have classes at zibbyclasses.com. And I recently opened a bookstore in LA called Zibby's Bookshop at 1113 Montana Avenue at 11th Street in Santa Monica. I hope that you are able to enjoy some of our other offerings. But this here podcast is the basis of all of it and started in 2018. And no matter what I do, this is basically my favorite thing. Enjoy. Byron Lane is the author of Big Gay Wedding, a novel. Byron is also the author of A Star is Bored, hailed by the New York Times Book Review as wildly funny and irreverent. He's a playwright, screenwriter, Emmy Award-winning journalist, and former assistant to actress Carrie Fischer. He's originally from New Orleans and lives in Palm Springs, California, with his husband, best-selling author Steven Rowley of The Celebrants, and their rescue dogs, Raindrop and Shirley. Welcome, Byron. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss Big Gay Wedding, a novel.
I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you.
Oh, of course. You too. Before we got on, I was just raving about how beautiful this cover is with the two men holding hands, but you almost can't even tell. It's like this big blue and white wedding season, something blue. It's just perfect. It's totally.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, good vibes. You know, you never really know what the cover will look like when you hold it for the first time. And I'm so happy. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, it's really great. And the book. So tell listeners what the book is about.
So Big Gay Wedding is about a conservative mom who runs a small town rescue ranch for misfit animals. And she clashes with her gay son who wants to have his wedding there on the family farm. That's the quick and easy.
Okay, that's a good one. Good pitch, concise.
Yeah. It's a little Father of the Bride. It's a little Schitt's Creek. So we've got some humor in there. We've got lots of heart. And really some really fun characters to explore the world with. Like there's a grandfather character named Pawpaw who lives in a nursing home, but he is really progressive because at the nursing home, they let them watch TV shows like Glee. So he's always got like fun takes. So I hope folks like it.
Of course, folks will like it. Tell me about all the different points of view and deciding how to structure the book. I know first person, third person, like which characters you chose for when. I feel like, isn't that a hard decision? And how did you structure it?
Really, I kind of just give the ball a kick and see what's working. And that's kind of where we landed. So we follow all of the characters, really. We follow the mother, Chrissy Durang. Her son, Barnett, is the one who wants to get married on the farm. His partner is Ezra, who is a teacher and brings to the story some kind of, I wouldn't say new age, but maybe a little bit of like outside of the box teaching about helping kids connect with their feelings and all that kind of stuff. And so it was really fun. It was so different from A Star is Bored, which was my first novel, which was inspired by my time I worked for Carrie Fischer. So for A Star is Bored, I was able to really kind of take reality and then paint imagination on top of it. Big Gay Wedding is really a lot more imagination. So you get this opportunity to really explore life with these characters. And there's some that is inspired by my real life. I mean, I grew up in the South. My family had a hard time when I came out. It was a whole nother coming out experience to introduce everyone to my husband, author Steven Rowley, who wrote The Guncle and The Celebrants. So this story really is a mom's story, to be honest. I mean, the title is Big Gay Wedding. There's lots of big gay stuff in it, but it's really a story about a mom who's trying to come out in her own way as loving and supporting her gay son.
No, it's so interesting. I was on Instagram earlier today. This is going to sound random, but anyway, do you know who Jen Hatmaker is? She's based in Austin. Anyway, she, I guess, had this whole evangelical following for a long time in her prior life and posted about her support of gay marriage and all, how amazing. And of course, when she said something like, well, what if your son came out and wanted a wedding to another man? She was like, of course, I'd be 100% behind it. And I guess she lost her whole business at the time. And all the evangelical Christian following that she had, they canceled all of her. But anyway, it was a whole thing. But she posted about it to say, but it opened up this whole amazing community. And you never know. Sometimes when it feels like things are bad, like things get better. So anyway, all to say, she can relate to the main character of Chrissy and all of that.
Well, and I hope that this book carries a little bit of that spirit of hope that when things seem bad, there's always another side to it. And when my first book came out, I was in the middle of chemo for testicular cancer, and I'm fine now. But there were so many experiences during that made me, it was sort of, I was forced to face like, oh, I feel like I'm going through this terrible thing, but look at all these beautiful things that are happening. So like one of them was an older lady. She was also going through chemo and she would knit all day. And then at one point she came up to me and one of the things she was knitting was a hat for me. I was bald and she gave me this hat to keep me warm. And so there were all these sweet moments. And gosh, your friend in Austin, I'm sorry that happened. I'm also so glad that she's able to see beauty that comes out of it. And I hope I hope I brought some of that to these characters in this book too. They all go through their own kind of journey of acceptance and understanding. And at the end of the day, isn't that part of all of our lives, being able to say like, wow, there's still sunshine.
Yeah. I think in large part, that's why people read, right? You just want to see, like, I analyze what I like to read. I like to read stories where something bad happens and something good happens at the end, right? Like you get through something. It doesn't matter what it is, but you get through the challenge, the family challenge, like all of it. And then you can go about your day and be like, okay, well, whatever I have on my plate, it's going to be fine because these 15 books I just read, there are skills and tools that I've learned in every one.
And also being seen. Like just that human thing. Gosh, I still remember this Oprah episode where she said, your kids just want to see you light up when you enter the room. And I think that's also true of adults. Yeah, I think we all like to feel seen. And I love it when a book can capture that and make me feel that way.
Totally. Wait, your journey with testicular cancer. How old were you when that happened?
Oh my gosh, so dumb.
Do you want to talk about it? You don't have to.
Oh yeah, anything you want. So I noticed a lump on a testicle in 2015. And the doctor was like, well, this isn't good. We should remove the testicle, see what's going on in there. And that's that. So they did, and they did a biopsy and there was cancer, but it was contained. So I didn't need chemo in 2015. And he was like, if you wait it out 5 years, we'll do a scan every few months, that kind of thing. And after 5 years, you should be good to go. And then Zibby, 5 years later, almost to the date, I went for my scan and they were like, oh, the cancer showed up in some lymph nodes, kind of in my leg. So it wasn't the end of the world. I mean, I'm so lucky that I had Steven here to help me through that. And by that point, he had published 3 books. And so he was really a great support because the STARS board was coming out. And so he was like, well, here's what's going to happen. Here's what that process looks like. And then, of course, COVID happened in the middle of doing chemo. So like I took my little bald head and I put on my mask and Steven drove me to the chemo place. And then he wasn't allowed to stay because of the new rules. And I don't know. It was all just like, it was a little bit of crazy town, but it's hard to not look back at that with a little smile because it brought us so much closer. That was a beautiful time for our family. And then the little experiences I had with the doctors and nurses and all that. So it all worked out. I had to have one other surgery where they took the tumor out. Afterwards, I said to the doctor, he was like, that was a really weird shaped tumor. And I thought, did you take a picture? And he was like, oh man, sorry. I only take a picture of the giant one. So I was a little bummed about that. But all is forgiven because next time, all is forgiven because I'm safe and sound and healthy and moving all along.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, how many more obstacles can you throw in the book launches? It's like hard enough to launch a book.
I know. It's like, oh, is Town and Country going to review? And then you've got it was cancer and COVID. It was really a nutty time.
I don't even mean to laugh. I mean, it's just crazy. It is insane. All of it. It's like,
oh my gosh. If we can't laugh, what is the point? Yeah. What is the point? It really does feel like every now and then I'll have these moments where I think, if I just take myself out of it for a second, life isn't that hard. And laughter is one of those things where it can be sort of an automatic response. And if I just kind of like let it happen, let the thing be funny, sometimes it's if I just let it be embarrassing, it really can be a smooth ride. And so I'm all about having a good laugh at all of it.
Wow. I love that you finalized that whole section with saying what a smooth ride it is when it sounded like it was like the opposite of a smooth ride. So let's go with that.
The thing is, it's sort of like, I heard this self-help lady say one time, like her little mantra was, I want what happens. And I don't always feel that way. But if I can get in that headspace, it is kind of what else is there to do, but just kind of sit in the roller coaster and let it roll.
Yeah, so true. Wait, I didn't realize, and I'm sorry, I have to admit, I did not read your other book. The first book is Star is Born, but tell me more about that and working with Carrie Fischer, because actually my husband's business partner is married to Carrie Fisher's daughter, Billy.
Oh, that's so cool.
We know them very well. Anyway, so tell me about your experience and all of that.
It was truly life-changing. She was a magical person. And I worked for her for about 3 years, from 2011 to 2014. And every day was a peak experience, not just because we were traveling the world and she's rich and famous and all that stuff, but because she's hilarious. She was so funny and so warm and had such a great outlook on things. And I think of her all the time. Yesterday, I was walking the dogs and the smell of the neighborhood I was in reminded me of Bali, when we went to Bali. And so she's on my mind every day. And part of what was so special about my time with her was that when I started working for her, I was really depressed. My life wasn't going the way I had imagined it would go. Things felt really hard. I was really lonely. My career as a journalist wasn't thriving. I was working a graveyard shift at CBS2, KCAL 9, writing news. And then a friend of a friend basically emailed and was like, hey, would you want to work for Princess Leia? And I thought, well, maybe, like, if I'm going to leave this journalism career, it should be for something cool. And so I met with Carrie, and she was otherworldly and just added so much color to my life and pulled me out of that depression I was in. And, you know, we talk about being seen. I felt seen by her. And we also shared, I think, this isolation. You know, I was isolated by being depressed and feeling ugly and unwanted and unlovable and a failure. And she was isolated by being a big movie star who had to do hair and makeup before she went to the grocery store. And so I think we were friends, and it was really lovely. And so Star is Born kind of tries to capture that. It's this depressed assistant who comes into contact with this really manic movie star, and she shines her light on him and changes his life. And then as he starts to change, he has to come to terms with whether he's going to live his own life or keep living hers. Because that's sort of what happens in a celebrity assistant situation. You really are living someone else's life. You're living someone else's vacations. You're having their experiences. And some people can do it forever. The pay is great. It's pretty cool to say you work for Carrie Fisher. And so Debbie Reynolds, Carrie's mom, her assistant was with her for life. And that happens a lot because it's a cool gig. It's just this little gnawing thing of if you want to do something different with your life and not live someone else's. So that's ultimately why I ended up leaving working for her. But it was life-changing. It was beautiful. And I hope I captured the spirit of that in A Star is Born. And Billy is such a lovely, beautiful person. And I don't know her partner. They weren't together when I was working for Carrie. But the whole family is beautiful. And I'll tell you, Carrie cared about one thing, and that was Billy. And it was really beautiful to see that. Speaking of great moms, by the way, that was really beautiful to see how much she loved Billy.
Oh, that was so nice. I love that. So what did you do after, and what were your original career aspirations? You wanted to be a journalist from day one? Tell me.
Yeah. What a nerd. I wanted to be Katie Couric in college. I had a roommate, this poor guy, Jason, and I would set our TV had a timer. So I would set the alarm to wake us up like right before the Today Show would come on. So I could hear like the cool music and the headlines. I mean, what a nerd. And then I got a job working for a local TV station in New Orleans and ended up during college working there overnights. So I would get to work at midnight, type the news for the morning show. The morning show would run and they would get off the air at like 8. I would race home, change clothes, then go into classes at Loyola in New Orleans.
Oh my gosh.
It really was my life. I worked with Hoda Kotb. She worked at Channel 4 WWL TV in New Orleans at the time I was there. And so it was just a great it was just a great life. And the TV station there was a dominant number one. So everyone there in town watched that channel. Everyone watched Hoda. There was another brilliant anchor named Angela Hill. Everyone was watching her. So they could affect change in the community. And so this was around like 1997, 98, 99. And when I left, journalism really changed across the board. So there were fewer dominant number one stations, and everyone got into kind of gimmicks. And then I worked in Las Vegas for a couple of years as an on-air reporter. That was crazy. That was also in the middle of the night. So I'd put on a little necktie at midnight and get in a live truck. And the photographer and I would drive around and listen to the police scanner and go from crime scene to crime scene. It was truly like a bad movie. And whatever was the worst thing was our live shot for the morning show. So, I mean, that I'm not saying that was a big contributor to my depression at the time, but maybe. Yeah, then I got to LA and I was a news writer, and that's a big change from wanting to be on air and all that stuff. And so I started writing movies and I wrote web series. And when the thing happened with my testicular cancer, I wrote a web series called Last Will and Testicle, and that was well received. And so I don't know, I kicked it all around and was kind of looking for the next thing. And when Carrie passed away in 2016, I posted a little tribute on Facebook, and people were so responsive. It kind of had a little bit of a viral reaction. And I thought, well, maybe there's more to that story that people would like to hear. And so that's when I started writing that book.
Did you consider it as a memoir?
No, I tried to write like Carrie used to write. So she would take real life and then cover it with imagination. And part of that is to save some souls, so she didn't have to use real names and all that stuff. But the other part of it was really, and this was something I learned while I was putting A Star Is Born together. I hired a couple of freelance editors to kind of help me with the structure. It was my first book. I wanted to know what I was doing. And they would point out the areas where, just the shorthand of it is, you need something to happen here. Like, you need something big. And my time with her was really pretty level. Like, we didn't have big fights. Her priorities aligned with my priorities in life. And so in crafting a fictionalized story of that, you have to add in some peaks and valleys and whatnot. And so it was just an easier way and it was a little bit more fun to tell a fictionalized version.
Wow. And then how did you come to this story after that one?
Well, I was chatting with my editor over at Henry Holt, James Malia, who's a genius, and I love him. And we were talking about, well, what could be next? And Steven and I had just had a little gay wedding. It was right after the chemo. It was right during COVID. So we were trying to figure out this marriage thing. And I had proposed to him and the acknowledgments of A Star Is Born. And so I proposed in 2020. And then when 2021 rolled around, we were like, let's just do it. It's time. Who knows when COVID will end? Who knows when there'll be big gatherings again? Also, this way we don't have to invite all of our families.
Yeah.
So it was a good excuse to just, we found this house here in Palm Springs that hadn't been remodeled since the 60s. So it was all that great old, crazy, grand emerald carpets and curtains and things like that. And so we just had an easy breezy ceremony there. And then when it was time to write this book, I thought, well, I had a little gay wedding, but what if I would have had a big gay wedding? What if it would have been a big grand thing? And what if I would have done it back home, where it would have been hard for my friends and family in the New Orleans area to kind of, my friends and family are in the rural part of Louisiana, so a little bit north of New Orleans. Like, that would have been a big deal for them. And even for some people who, I truly think that the haters are kind of a minority, but they're really loud. So I think what would have happened in real life, and what I tried to bring to the book, is people who sort of wanted to be happy for the character Barnett and want to cheer him on. And it just takes a little bit of courage to do that sometimes.
Interesting. How did you meet Steven?
We met on OkCupid.
No way.
Yeah, this was 10 years ago. And we were just looking at our first messages back and forth. And I said to him, like, I emailed him first. I knew he was the winner. And I sent him a message and I wrote, wow, I can tell you're a writer, because his profile was so well written. It was so clever and funny. And it had all the opposite of red flags. It had like green flags, like we both loved the movie Meet Joe Black. So that's one thing that came to mind. And we talked about complicated relationships with our families. And so, yeah, we started messaging, and then we had a pinkberry yogurt date. And I remember when I left there, I reached out to a friend and I said, I think I met my husband. Like, I kind of just had this feeling.
Mm-hmm.
He was just that kind of guy, and really special. And he got to meet Carrie. I was still working for her at the time, and we were at a party at Penny Marshall's house, and Carrie had just hidden a bunch of Coke Zeros all around the bushes around Penny Marshall's swimming pool because she was scared that Penny was going to run out. She wanted to make sure she had enough Coke Zero to drink. And it was at that moment that I brought Steve over. I was like, hey, this is Carrie, whatever. And she kind of pulled him down and she was like, if you break his heart, I'll kill you. And I was like, oh, what a sweet little moment. And that was another interesting thing about how I kind of knew that Steven would make a great partner is Carrie was really special to me. And most of my friends didn't even know I worked for her. Like I didn't tell people. I kept everything private. There was no gossip, and I didn't want people asking for me to get something signed. Blah 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 blah. And similarly with dating people, there was no one who I ever wanted to introduce her to. Mm-hmm. And then I met this guy Steven Rowley, and I was like, oh, this is a great guy. And I thought that she'd get a kick out of him, and she did. And so it was all very lovely.
And how is it being part of a 2-author household?
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I joke that we're at war. Our books come out the same day, and it really is just an accident. We have different agents, editors, publishers, the whole thing. But May 30th, Steven's new book, The Celebrants, drops the same day as Big Gay Wedding. And it's really lovely. I mean, I sometimes think I get more out of it than Steven. I'm able to go to him and be like, is this normal? Like, do you have your books yet? Have you seen your cover yet? How many blurbs are you asking for? So I get to go to him for all the good stuff. And not to mention, like, both of us reading each other's work and giving feedback and advice. And it's a pretty quiet house, except for our dogs, Raindrop and Shirley, who can make a ruckus when the mail carrier arrives. But other than that, it's quiet. We say hello during lunch. And the only other great part is we understand when the writer brain is at work. So if we're stressed because we can't figure something out, we understand. Or if something happens and we're like, oh my gosh, I have an idea. Sorry, I can't go on the walk with you. I got to go write. We also get that. And so it's nice to have a sort of shorthand in that regard.
That's amazing. It's so crazy that your books are coming out at the same time.
So crazy.
Wow. Do you have any plans for another one? What are you thinking? Are you writing something already in these quiet hours?
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm still kicking around ideas, and I'm trying to see what comes of all of it. I want to turn Big Gay Wedding into a screenplay, so that's on my mind. And you know how it is. It's sometimes you're just kind of waiting to see where the creative energy goes.
It would be fun to do something about being part of a 2-author household. I mean, it's almost like a book in itself, like 2 authors, same pub day, but maybe there's some, only one of them can come out, or I don't know.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, we've thought about it. Every now and then we'll kick around ideas like, what about this? What about that? So You never know.
You never know. Do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
It's lame, but it's heartfelt, and I mean it. And it's keep going, because sit in the chair and keep writing. If you get some rejections, who cares? Keep going. There are so many stories of people who it was their 101 rejection letter, and then they made their deal or whatever. And sometimes I think even in my own writing, I sometimes don't know what's going to happen in a scene until the end of the scene. Sometimes you have to write several chapters until you realize, like, oh, I finally found these people. So the keep going part of it really is just is part of it. So that's my advice. Don't give up. Keep going. You got this. Everyone. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, but the writers I know all experience the same thing. Am I a failure? Is this dumb? Imposter syndrome is real. So the truth is to just take your story and bring it to the page. And Carrie Fischer, to round things out with her, she used to say, take your broken heart and go make art. And it really did feel like that served me when it came time to write A Star is Born. I feel like it serves me when I have to take regrets in my life and put them into some of these characters in Big Gay Wedding. And so keep going with your story. And it's important. What you're doing is important.
I love that. And I'm so excited you'll be at Zibby's bookshop soon. I think this might air afterwards, but hopefully we can record the thing because I'm so sad I won't be there in person, but thrilled to be there.
Oh, well, no worries. I'm excited too. I love the empire you are creating. It is such an honor to be chatting with you. What you have done for authors is brilliant, amazing, groundbreaking, and I just think you're iconic, and I'm kind of fanboying out. I'm thrilled that you were able to chat with me, and I can't wait to visit your bookstore.
Yay. Thank you. Well, this was so much fun, and I love talking to you, and hope to continue in person out west next time.
That sounds great, Zibby. All right, more to come.
Okay. Hi to Steven.
I will.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.